Self-driving cars, will they bring a utopia or a dystopia? Tesla's solar roofs are cheaper than regular roofs. A group of students figured out Facebook's fake news problem in 36 hours, and why Google Earth might be VR's killer app. All that and a whole lot more coming right up on Tech News Today.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today, episode 1645, recorded Friday, November 18th, 2016. This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by ZipRecruiter. Are you hiring? With ZipRecruiter.com, you can post to 100-plus job sites, including social networks, all with a single click. Screen, rate, and hire the right candidates fast. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/twit.
And by Tracker, a coin-sized tracking device that pairs with your smartphone and keeps you from losing your most valued possessions. Visit thetracker.com right now and enter promo code TNT to receive a free Tracker Bravo with any purchase.
And by Epson's new EcoTank printers. With Epson's line of SuperTank all-in-one printers, you can print thousands of documents without running out of ink. EcoTank is loaded and ready to print when you are. Visit Epson.com/EcoTank to find out more.
Welcome to Tech News Today. This is a show where we talk about everything you need to know about technology today. And we are the Woody and Buzz Lightyear of tech news.
Or the Woody and Harrelson. Maybe.
Woody and Harrelson.
That's where I thought you were going, but where you went actually made a lot more sense.
Yeah, Woody and Harrelson.
We aren't just like a first and last name.
No, because we're tech news and beyond.
Yes, that's our slogan.
I'm Megan Maroney.
And I'm Jason Howell. Let's talk about tech. We've got a lot of like car stuff to talk about today. Next time you buy a new car, you might turn to Amazon first. Fiat Chrysler Automobiles will begin to sell its cars on the site, and it will even sweeten the deal by improving its promotions by up to 33% when purchased online. FCA plans to open up online sales first to the Italian market, where the Panda is the company's biggest selling car. Also offered will be the 500 and the 500L, which FCA says appeals perfectly to the type of buyer that might be adventurous enough to buy their cars online. Would you buy a car on Amazon? Sight unseen?
Only if it came in a big box with 10 times as much packaging as it needed.
That would actually be a really great bonus, because it's basically a room at that point, and my kids would have a field day with that.
I purchased a car just a few months ago, and I was looking at some apps. There was Beepy and Vroom. These were all Beepy.
Oh, okay.
Beepy with an I, B-E-P-I.
Oh, okay.
But it is fun to say Beepy. And you can say it again if you want to.
Oh, I will.
But they were... I did not like the used car buying experience, and I would like it to be disrupted. Now, these are new cars, though, right? Or are they used?
As far as I could tell, they were new. I didn't see anything about used on this. Research actually showed that half of Italians would like to buy their vehicles online. They'd still want to go to the dealer to pick them up. So basically what's happening here is that Amazon would connect the buyer with a dealer. You'd kind of go through the interface to like pull the trigger on a particular vehicle. You'd still obviously had to go into that particular dealer to kind of finalize the deal and then, hop in and drive away.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, that's what I ended up doing after doing my research online. Although it was tempting because Beepy delivers the car with a giant bow on it.
That would be nice. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've always wanted to go outside. I mean, everybody's wanted this, right? You've seen the commercial a million times. It's the holidays almost, so we're going to see it again, where you go outside and the car has a nice big bow on it. Mm-hmm. You want that experience.
The other thing about car buying is you you do your research, but then when you want it, you want it. And so this Amazon takes 2 weeks. That was part of the problem with these other websites too. It's like, okay, then you make your choice and then you got to sit around and wait for the car. I don't like to wait for anything.
I'm a little bummed that you don't get Prime shipping. Mm-hmm. It's in two-day shipping, but whatever.
Well, many 2014 iPhone 6 and 6 Pluses are suffering from what the internet has dubbed touch disease, which has symptoms of flashing gray bars, flickering screens. I know, it sounds gross, but it's pretty bad. Also failing touch screens, so you touch and nothing happens. Now, Apple will fix the problem for the low price of $150. But is it fair to charge that much for a problem that is so common to users of these phones and presumably not a user's fault? Users with the smaller size iPhone 6 have also reported the problem, as I said, but Apple says this $150 fix only applies to the iPhone 6 Plus. So, I mean, at least they're admitting that touch disease exists. But if it's something that so many people are experiencing, even on phones way back in the olden days, 2014, I still think that they should cover that.
Yeah, I mean, those phones are probably, most of them, outside of the warranty. So, and by the way, Apple made sure to mention that they think the problem appears, quote, after being dropped multiple times on a hard surface and then incurring further stress. So they seem to think that it is the fault does lie in the hands, literally, of the person that owns the phone. iFixit says it's a design flaw related to the controller chip and how it's soldered to the logic board. But you handled your phone incorrectly. You're doing it wrong. Mm-hmm. Basically is what Apple has said here. The full cost of this, I guess, is $300. So basically in this case, they're paying half the price, and you have to take up the other half of it. I suppose that's better than nothing. But yeah, I don't really know who's really at fault here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have an iPhone 6 and the Touch ID doesn't work anymore, but I don't have the touch disease. I think that might be a separate thing.
You have Touch ID disease.
Yeah, Touch ID disease.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A few weeks back, Tesla CEO Elon Musk unveiled solar roof tiles during a special event, making the claim that the high-efficiency solar cell glass tiles would be priced competitively to traditional roofing when energy savings is factored in. Well, after a shareholders meeting to approve Tesla's merger with Solar City this week, Musk is now making the claim that these solar tiles are going to cost less than a traditional roof even before any energy production savings are factored in. Tesla is aiming to produce those solar tiles en masse next year with installations set to begin in summer 2017. You can place your orders on this now, but we don't really have the actual cost of them yet.
Yeah, and when he's saying it's going to cost less than a regular roof, he's talking about a regular roof, like a terracotta roof or a slate roof.
Right, yes.
Which are super expensive. Like, I don't have a terracotta or a slate roof. I have an old-fashioned roof. But at the same time, I have a roof with solar panels on it, and they're 3 years old. And when I need to, when I need to replace the roof, like, what do I do with the solar panels? They were really expensive, and I'm not sure I got the money back, but I feel good about it. Anyway, mm-hmm. Like I feel good that I'm, giving money back. I'm giving energy back to the grid. But I think that money is a big factor in this. People really aren't going to just get solar on a large scale just because it's good for the environment. They need a financial incentive. Most people do.
I mean, you would look at this technology. I would look at this technology and I would think no matter what is out there as far as traditional roofing options are, that this would just have to be more expensive than what we already have, even though it's more expensive than the standard roofing that most people have, but still less expensive than the roofing materials that you're talking about. That's still pretty darn good. Like, mm-hmm. why would you not at that point? Basically, the cost of the supply, Musk said that the supply chain is inefficient and it's all based on the weight of the produced tiles in volume. So Tesla's solar tiles are 1/3 to 1/5 the weight of concrete and ceramic roof tiles. And as a result, that just drives the cost down. It also says that they're going to last 2-3 times longer. So these things are nice looking. Like when you look at a house that's outfitted with one of these, they've got 4 different types. They've got a textured glass tile, a slate glass tile, Tuscan glass tile, smooth glass tile. And it just looks really, really cool. It looks kind of futuristic. I love it.
And Mike in our chat room points out that when you need to change a roof, you take the solar panels off, you get a new roof, and then you put the solar panels back on, which I understand. But it's just another thing that costs a lot of money.
For sure.
You don't have to get new. I understand you don't need to get new solar panels, but it would be great if they were just built right into the roof.
Absolutely.
Now, if you thought safety was the only unknown about the future of self-driving cars, think again. Wired says that right now, nobody really knows what kind of havoc self-driving cars will wreak on our future environment. A new report from the Center on American Progress says autonomous cars could reduce the environmental impact of driving, or it could increase it. We need more research on efficiency, potential miles traveled, impact on congestion before we start spreading the word that self-driving cars are the magic pill to solve climate change. Now, most of this depends on whether those robot cars are electric or not. So if we're talking about creating a self-driving car that still uses gas, we're not talking about anything that's going to be better for the environment. Also, what this study says is maybe like if you have a self-driving car, you're going to use it more often. You're going to, and that's still electricity. Or you're going to, instead of taking public transportation, you're going to drive in your own car. If you think, okay, well, I can check Twitter while I'm going to work. Why would I then take the subway when I can just drive my own car and not drive, but ride in my own car?
Well, this is also potentially the post-ownership era, so I wonder how that affects this as well. When you're talking about, even right now, 4 or 5 people loading into a vehicle to commute together to save on emissions. I wonder how that kind of scales into a future where it's autonomous vehicles driving people around and they don't own those cars. Is it one car taking one person, or does that scale up? I just kind of always assumed that I don't know, it's an assumption that I made based on nothing, but that autonomous vehicles would be electric. But I guess it makes sense if policymakers aren't emphasizing a shift to the infrastructure, what's required to build this out. Car makers are probably going to focus on the thing that they know works and that makes them money, and that's probably the at least at this point, that's still the traditional kind of fuel.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people just sort of assume that. And it also depends on what kind of electricity you're using. In different states, it could mean something different. And, just this promise of electric cars, they're hitting some snags. The Chevy Bolt was supposed to come out nationwide this fall. That's the Bolt with a B, not to be confused by the hybrid Volt with a V. But now GM is saying it's going to roll out slowly across 2017. Now, they promised 2016, so the car will come out, but only in Oregon and California at the very end of this year. So this $30,000 long-range vehicle, like the Tesla Model C, was supposed to bring practical, affordable electric vehicles to the masses, but it just might not be happening as fast as we'd like it to. There's just a lot of electric cars that aren't as practical they're not in a price range that a lot of people can afford right now.
Mm-hmm. Musk actually, during his shareholder meeting, made mention about this, saying that GM's plan to release 20 to 30,000 vehicles doesn't make enough of a difference, and basically that they should really be shooting to 300 to 400,000 vehicles to make some sort of difference, that they're only making enough to fulfill some sort of mandate. And you were mentioning to me before the show that you were considering this vehicle when you needed to buy one, still coming to California and Oregon this year. So,
well,
you still
I still could, but I bought my Prius and I'm happy with it. And
you're moving on.
Yeah, and it did not cost $30,000. It was less than that.
That's true. It's a big difference there.
Yeah.
Up next, 4 college students have figured out a solution for detecting fake news on Facebook. But before we talk about that, let's take a minute to thank ZipRecruiter. They're the sponsor of this episode. Are you hiring? Do you know where you need to post your job to find all the best candidates? They're all over the map. They're all over the place. The internet is, I'm sure you would agree, a pretty darn big place. So they're everywhere. If you want to find the perfect hire, you need to post your job on all of the top job sites. Doing that is time consuming if you don't have an easy way to pull it off. That's what ZipRecruiter is all about. You can do that here. Posting jobs in one place is not enough to find all of those quality candidates. With ZipRecruiter.com, you can post to more than 100 job boards all over the place, including social media networks like Facebook and Twitter, all with a single click. You just post one time, that's all it takes, and you'll watch as your candidates roll into the ZipRecruiter easy-to-use interface for you to kind of scan through and figure out exactly who fits. ZipRecruiter offers optimized pages that look great on any screen. You can add their unique mobile apply process for more visitors and applicants. You can find candidates in any city or industry nationwide. No more juggling emails or calls to your office. That takes a lot of time to do. You're not going to need to do that here. But even so, you can add multiple users to your account to help you manage things. You can quickly screen candidates with real-world questions using free-form, multiple choice, or yes/no formats. You can view candidate responses right next to their beautifully formatted resumes, rate those applications, hire the right person, and fast. Find out today why ZipRecruiter has been used by over 1 million businesses. And right now you can post jobs on ZipRecruiter for free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/twit. That's ZipRecruiter.com/twit to check it out for yourself. And we thank ZipRecruiter for their support of Tech News Today.
Fake news on Facebook is not a new problem, but it's a problem with a lot of power, and it's time to stop ignoring it no matter which presidential candidate you voted for or what country you live in. Now, today's guest says she had a hard time deciphering the accuracy of news on her own Facebook feed and was not willing to accept that we were living in a post-truth world. Nabonita D is a grad student at the University of Massachusetts in Amherst and recently developed a tool to help solve the Facebook news problem. Welcome, Nabonita.
Hi.
Thanks for coming on. So let's start with your own personal experience with faked news. So when you went to your Facebook feed before the election and you saw this news, what did you think?
I thought that there were a lot of news which was being shared on Facebook, and oftentimes it was difficult to understand that whatever was being shared, was it true or not? And because a lot of fake news was shared, it was kind of scary for anyone to read it. And I don't know, it was just overwhelming. A lot of people said that it kind of influenced the elections. I don't know. It was definitely overwhelming to see so much of fake news around.
So you were getting ready for the Princeton Hackathon at this point, and tell us a little bit about what you and your group did at the hackathon.
Sure. So we formed the team at the hackathon, and we built a Chrome extension for detecting fake news as well as images. So what we did was for every post that you go through on your news feed, we are gonna say what is fake, which is verified or non-verified. So for every post, it will have like a tag: verified, non-verified. So we do that by kind of checking it against a system that we have built, which kind of assigns a score to each link. Now, if that score is not enough a certain threshold, what we do is we go back and get the real information from Google or Bing and summarize that and show to the user. And that real information comes from more verified links. For images, what we do is, like, for example, a lot of people post Twitter snapshots of maybe celebrities tweeting something, but it's actually photoshopped. So what we do is we go on Twitter, we check if that was really tweeted by that celebrity or not. If not, we say non-verified. If it is, then we say verified.
So this is a Chrome extension. Does it just work It just works in Facebook, right? Not across the web?
It just works on Facebook for now.
And so tell us about your team and what your background and your other team members' background.
Sure. So I go to school at UMass Amherst as a grad student. I'm studying computer science. In my team, there's Anand, who is a freshman at Purdue. There is Mark and Quillen. Both of them go to Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, and they are sophomores there. And all of us are computer science students.
So one of the questions that I have here is, obviously there are determinations that are being made about kind of the reputation of a particular website. Who's making that determination? Is that a lot of work on the back end in order to keep up with that?
So for now, we are using the World of Trust API to get a score between 0 to 100. So we are checking that if for every link, if the score is above 70, we are saying that, okay, that is a safe, a verified link. And if it is not, then we go through the entire process of getting content from more verified links. That way we're not saying that this is this is completely fake, but we actually go back and get the real information from other links and kind of check that whatever we just read, was that something that is verified or not. Mm-hmm. I think that's what we do in general, right? Like when we read some suspicious links on Facebook or something that we think is not true, we Google and look at other links and see what they say about. So very similar.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, it's a perfect automated tool, because that's what we all would do if we had time, right? We would check, we kind of all know, like, go check to see if other sources have said this same thing, see if look at the link, but we all don't have time to do that. So this is a great tool. So tell us, so this was a 36-hour hackathon. You did all of this in 36 hours. What were some of the challenges that you and your team ran into?
you can't exactly change the UI of Facebook because they don't allow you to do that. Like maximum what you can do is like put like what we built was just put a button on the side, but you can't make posts go away and things like that because Facebook treats all those things as like an ad blocker. So one of the most difficult things was like kind of scraping the Facebook page, obviously with due permission from the engineers who were present at the hackathon from Facebook. We kind of scraped the page and got the links. So that was like most difficult part. Another was like the other teammates, like two of the other teammates, like Mark and Quillen, for them, it was the first hackathon. And most of us were getting introduced to, like, we haven't done coding in JavaScript. Like, I'm like a backend person. I always work on the backend part. So that was a challenge of, putting everything together and making it work. So I think those were few challenges that we faced during like completing an end-to-end product.
Yeah, for sure. Now, this was a Facebook-sponsored event, at least in part. Facebook sponsored this. Do you think any of the right people from Facebook were watching kind of the solution that you had put together and, I don't know, taking notes?
We don't know. I mean, there were a few engineers from Facebook there at the hackathon, and sure, like when it was judged, everyone came to everyone's booth, and everyone got a chance to showcase what they built. So I don't know if someone was taking notes internally, but definitely we tried to build something which will help everyone, like all the users out there on Facebook.
For sure.
So I installed the Chrome extension, and it said it can read and change any information on Facebook. Why do you have to say that?
I don't know, like maybe people have different expectations from us. Maybe they do not know that Facebook do not allow you to change information or add information, like as in like maybe change the UI, like make a post disappear. We can't do that. Like that's not something that Facebook allows developers to do. So I thought that would be pretty helpful to put it up so that if someone is expecting us to just remove all those posts from their timeline, that's not possible. Like if Facebook makes that available to developers, sure, but right now that's not something that we can do.
Well, this is really impressive. I mean, I love reading that you were new to JavaScript. It was a new language. You guys learned it in a weekend. That's pretty amazing.
Yes. I mean, like literally the front end people were like watching videos online on how to use JavaScript initially, and by the end we had this entire thing running.
Nice.
That's really impressive. Well, Navneena, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for your hard work. I'm excited to see what you do next.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And
Best
so where online can people find the Chrome extension?
So we have published it on the Chrome store. So if you search Fib, you would probably get it. If you don't find it, you can go on our dev post site, and we have linked our GitHub to that. On the GitHub link, the first thing that you click, you will see the Chrome extension link.
All right.
That's devpost.com/software/FIB for Fib. Cool. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Thank you.
Right, have a good night. All right, so Ed wrote in to TNT at twit.tv with some feedback saying, I thought it was fascinating that Matt McFarland from yesterday's show, in response to your question yesterday about universal basic income, raised the specter of freeloaders. Slackers, like serial killers, are one of those entities we imagine everywhere and against which we create institutions and practices that are supposed to protect us, but actually have the effect of harming us much more than the evil they are intended to prevent. They keep us from taking walks at night or talking to strangers, for example. They keep kids from playing outside of their parents' supervision with all the benefits of solving their own problems. And they keep us working 50-hour work weeks for fear of losing our jobs. Yet most of us would never identify ourselves as either one or would have a hard time naming one among the people we actually know well. If there were even a tiny fraction of the number of serial killers that people imagine there are, we would all be dead. And my experience is that though people do at times work from fear of losing their jobs, they do their best work when they're taking care of each other. I have met tired, overworked people who could use a break, but no real slackers. Sure, if we had something like universal basic income so that we were not working out of fear, we might do less. But would it be a tragedy if we put in less than 40 hours, went home earlier to be with our loved ones, or built slightly shorter buildings? We have created all this amazing wealth. It seems a shame not to share it because of imaginary evils. Very well put. And I thought that was expertly written. I thought, I don't know, I just really enjoyed that email. Thank you for sending that in.
Yeah, I mean, I think that universal basic income is something beyond my pay grade, but it does sound really nice to not just work because you have to, And it is true that we do our best work when we're doing what we love. And, I know everyone doesn't have the opportunity to do that. And
sure.
Yeah, I mean, and I do hope that automation doesn't turn into just some people losing their jobs, but taking a whole different look about on how we work and how much wealth we've created, like Ed says. And I do not know the answer.
Yeah.
If you do, email us at TNT.
Yeah, we'll keep this going. You guys email us.
Sam Moscovich from Ars Technica is here with our weekly roundup of gaming news. But first, let's take a minute to thank Tracker, the sponsor of this episode. Now, we're all used to losing our stuff. Newsweek reports that the average American wastes 55 minutes every day looking for things that they own but cannot find. Tracker makes losing things a thing of the past, and I will tell you how to get one for free. The Tracker Bravo locates misplaced keys, wallets, computers, backpacks, bicycles, even pets in seconds. The coin-sized device is constructed with anodized aluminum for the thinnest, most durable tracking. You can easily attach it to your items via key loop or adhesive. Tracker is enabled by Bluetooth LE, so the battery lasts up to 1 year. You can add a laser engraved message to each Tracker Bravo, like return information or your pet's information, maybe your pet's name, so that whoever finds your pet can, while they're waiting for the tracker to do its work, can call your pet by name. You can pair Tracker to your iOS or your Android device, and you can find its precise location just with a tap of a button. It's pretty easy. Your phone can track up to 10 different devices at once. Customize two-way separation alerts so you're notified before you leave your item behind. And if you lose your phone, press the button on your tracker, and then your phone will ring even if your phone is on silent. With over 3.5 million devices shipped, Tracker has the largest crowd GPS network in the world, so your lost item shows up on a map, even if it's miles away. If you lose your item, the Tracker app records its last known location on a map, and when another Tracker user comes within a 100-foot range of your item, you'll get a GPS update of where your item is located. Go to thetracker.com and then never lose your possessions again, or lose them all the time and then immediately find them. Plus, just for our audience, if you enter promo code TNT, you'll get a free Tracker Bravo with your order. That's TheTracker.com, promo code TNT, to get your free Tracker Bravo today.
So earlier this week, we discussed Google's new VR app for Google Earth. And guess who's a fan? It's Sam Moscovich from Ars Technica. How's it going, Sam?
Hello, everybody. I am back in the real world after many adventures in the virtual world, as you all know.
Pulling you out of the globe, the virtual globe that is Google Earth. So you call this VR's killer app. So why, first of all, wouldn't Google release this first on its perfectly timed release of Daydream VR? It's kind of perplexing to me.
It's an interesting thing. The fact that got announced. When it got announced, the first thing I did was look for some sort of Google Daydream announcement, because it's so perfectly timed. In fact, we had a write-up recently about Google Daydream, and yet they are favoring the HTC Vive and the Steam VR platform, just as they did with Tilt Brush, which was previously my pick for killer app for the HTC Vive. That it was made by a small team that Google acquired. I mean, the answer really would describe what is so cool about it. But the short version is you couldn't do this on Google Daydream. You couldn't reach I don't know if you could reach as many people yet. Maybe the Pixel sales are incredible, unless you're, a reseller out of New Hampshire, but that's a whole other topic. But yeah, there's a certain number of people you can reach with it. And there's a lot of stuff happening in the app that's going to require more than a smartphone to render.
So explain that a little bit. You do call it a killer app, which is a bold statement for anything. Anytime you put that label onto something, it kind of makes your ears go boop. What about this particular experience made you say that?
I mean, that I actually had editors say, "Are you sure you want to use that phrase? Because it's very loaded." I think that was the first comment at Ars Technica was, "Why are you calling it killer app?" I do not come to that phrase lightly. Google Earth, when I think of killer app for virtual reality, I think hand this to anyone, blow them away immediately, have it be simple, interesting, fun, exciting. That is how I felt about Super Mario 64 back for the N64, which is, I was a kid back then. That was my first idea of a killer app for any sort of computer, that sort of thing. And that is how I feel about Google Earth. It's basically exciting. I love it. I love the feeling of it. I could just start rambling about how awesome it is.
Did you go to any places that were like pixelated, or did you try to go to a place that didn't exist on Earth?
Well, it's interesting because the way it works, anyone who's used Google Earth's desktop app, which has been around for some time, knows that it's doing sort of a 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional mix.
Yeah.
That you can go, and that's changed over the years. I haven't actually used the desktop app in a long time, but that's changed as far as how much stuff is 3D rendered. And I realized that in a big way when I decided to go to Seattle CenturyLink Field and Safeco Field. I was able to grab with my hands the globe, spin to Washington State, then to Seattle, then to Seattle's downtown district, and then to these stadiums. And then I could land inside of these stadiums and stand in them. And everything inside of them was proportionally perfect. It looked...
So you, just let me get this straight. You had the whole world and you decided to go to some place that presumably you live 15 to 20 minutes away from?
Have you ever stood at the 50-yard line of the loudest NFL stadium in the nation? I haven't.
Okay.
That's a good point.
And that was really what I thought. I said, okay, well, how can it be both familiar and also exhilarating? And that really did that for me, was to think of that was the first thing I thought of, because I could also easily find it. Mm-hmm. You can't type in any location. You have to depend on grabbing and moving around, other than some pre-selected landmarks. So for Seattle wasn't really there as a pre-selected landmark. So I grabbed, I moved, I got there, stood on the 50-yard line, used the wand functions in order to shrink down. And I stood on the yard line and did one of these, whoa, crowd goes wild, wow, kind of moments. And it was cool. But you mentioned pixelation, and indeed, it doesn't look exactly like Safeco Field. There's some blobby. I said N64 stuff earlier. It kind of looks like an N64 game inside of these buildings, where the polygons aren't quite right, the textures aren't quite right, that sort of thing. But proportionally, it was perfect. So, and it also made me wonder how the heck they got that sort of scan, because it doesn't look, the way it scanned didn't look like it was taken just from the sky above. There were details that specifically looked like things that you could only get from inside. So it was an interesting sort of look at how far it's come and how much it can render in real time, because it's rendering all that stuff on the fly. You pick up a Seattle location and it just starts churning and fine tuning it until it gets to the sharpest resolution possible, so that you can jump from place to place pretty quickly.
You talked a little bit about the controller. How kind of vital to the experience is the Vive controller integration into this?
The Vive controller integration is interesting because it does sort of speak to this working in the future as a sit down or not move around sort of thing. Now, the HTC Vive is best known as one of these stand and walk around and not bump into the walls because it has some safeguards. But there's more motion expected. But Google Earth VR is good at letting you move using your hands to sort of manipulate and warp and grab things. You can grab the Earth from the distance, and your view will sort of periscope, so that everything else is blurred except for this little preview right here in your face. That reduces nausea. It makes it easy to go very quickly and very simply without getting sick. And I think that's part of the reason I would call it killer app, because I am a canary in the coal mine in terms of virtual reality sickness. I can stomach it, but I totally notice it and, really swallow it down. And I really didn't feel that way unless I grabbed really fast. But even then, I could very quickly just stop and pause, take a breath, and be totally fine. So that's what's interesting to me, is that it does look like eventually they could transport this to nicer phones, to more powerful phones, and have it work where you don't have to walk around, where you can stand up with a cell phone on, limited tracking, and feel like you're in one of these crazy places.
Yeah, I have to imagine, even though it didn't launch on Daydream, Google is better. You better believe that's part of their priority list, is to get it there, because if it's this good, it's also a way to kind of show off a platform, and they want Daydream to work. So I hope that they do that, because I have Daydream and I don't have an HTC Vive. You also had a chance to spend a lot of time with Watch Dogs 2, which looks like a great game. Does it make you wish you were a hacker?
Who said I'm not? Man.
Believe me, when I wrote that, I was like, he could be.
There's a system to be hacked, I think, is the shortest version of that. But no, Watch Dogs 2, if for the uninitiated, the sequel to Watch Dogs, that game came out after a hype-filled trailer, and I never trust hype-filled trailers. And sure enough, the first game ultimately had Grand Theft Auto with a high-tech magic wand. You could run around stealing cars, shooting people, but you could also point at stuff in the distance and electronically manipulate it. So it really felt like a sort of high-tech Harry Potter, where you just saw something in the distance, it happened to be connected to the cloud, and then you could pick an option like make the person's phone ring, or make the car move around, or things like that. So Watch Dogs 2 takes this idea and makes it kind of the same mechanically, in terms of you're still essentially playing a Grand Theft Auto clone, where you're stealing cars and shooting people. But there's also some parkour to it, meaning you can run and clamber around in that sort of Assassin's Creed way. Mm-hmm. And Grand Theft Auto still doesn't have that. So that's a nice touch. But for people who have played it, the first one, there's more hacking to be done. There's more creative ways to point your phone around and use a mix of stealth and trickiness and creativity to get through these giant infiltration missions. Like you go to a warehouse and there's a bunch of gangs lining up around the place, and you might call in some cops to arrest one of the bad guys that's a diversion, so you can sneak around the other way. Or you can hack a security camera, target someone, make their cell phone, assumedly a Samsung Note 7, blow up, and so that you can go through that way. That sort of thing. So it encourages a creativity with an otherwise standard Grand Theft Auto thing. The other thing I liked was that even though it hinges on a sort of hipster hacker premise, in that you're part of this Bay Area collective of hackers called DedSec, DEDSEC, that looked obnoxious at first. Like, oh, it's going to be cutesy and hipster, and look at how hip we are as video game designers, and blah, blah, blah. Ends up being really driven by funny, smart character development. And if you're going to be slogging through one of these giant games where you're constantly being briefed on a mission, talking to your cohorts, it's nice to have a small group of protagonists working together, bouncing off each other in dialogue. And honestly, one thing I thought was really cool that I pointed out was representation. The Bay Area is a very diverse part of the nation, and Watch Dogs 2 really nails women, the LBDG, wow, I never get that right, the LGBTQ, I'm sorry, guys, my letters, that community. Just a lot of communities that can end up being made fun of or satirized in other games felt really responsibly handled, that sort of thing. So I enjoyed it as a plot game. I liked it fine as a Grand Theft Auto clone. And as a high-tech person, I felt like all the high-tech sort of gibberish, they nailed.
And so let's say someone wanted to learn how to be a hacker. Will I learn that? I mean, not me, but someone learn that by playing Watch Dogs 2?
Absolutely not. You will not attach a keyboard to your PlayStation 4 or Xbox One and actually type in any code. There are other games like that, by the way. I would recommend Hack and Slash. That's by Double Fine. And that actually lets you actually type in code and responses in order to beat puzzles in that game. Totally recommend it. I think it came out a year or two ago. But this is definitely more of a Grand Theft Auto clone with high-tech trappings. But it does really well with those. It's not obnoxious. It's not mocking. It's accurate. When they mention things like installing backdoors or malware or making fun of things like script kiddies, that's all placed in the game in appropriate, sensible ways. So I appreciate that, especially after watching so many CSI style shows that just, enhance and things like that. It doesn't do anything that's super obnoxious in that way, which is good.
It reminds me of when I was a kid. I had a Commodore 64, and there was an Activision game back in 1985 called Hacker. You've found your way in, but is there a way out? And I thought I was totally a hacker when I played the game. So this game, obviously, I mean, it has to have a statement of some sort, right? Like it really seems like it's kind of I mean, it's ripped out, at least to some degree, of what we hear and talk about on this show all the time. Is it making an obvious statement as you play through it?
There's a mix. So some missions have some very boring surface level parodies. There's a Martin Shkreli parody where you have to take down a pharmaceutical giant by teasing him about a special limited edition rap album. I mean, that's just right on the nose. And that's such an easy target and silly thing. But there is stuff about the fully connected world, the Internet of Things backfiring on us all, the kind of spying, the wholesale spying that is really occurring that we have, folks like Snowden have made incredibly clear to Americans. So I think it does a pretty good job of summing up some of the worst state of digital espionage storylines that we've heard. In a way, I would say it's less like the Snowden documentary Citizen 4 and more like the Oliver Stone movie called Snowden, which I don't think is a bad thing, but it's very digestible. I think if you're a teenager who's sort of hearing about these headlines, you won't be led astray. It's not going to lie to you. It could dig in a little deeper, but it's ultimately more of an entertainment product than it is a statement product.
Right. Comparing it to the Oliver Stone movie versus the documentary is, I think, perfectly put, right? Different perspectives entirely, and that probably works a lot better in the form of a video game than the other. Cool stuff. Looks like a lot of fun. Hope to get the chance to play it. Sam Miskovich, Ars Technica. Always love having you on, man. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Before I go, if you look right here, this is a pin from Desert Bus for Hope. This is happening right now on the internet. You may have talked about it on the show already, but these are a bunch of kids in Victoria, BC, who are just playing the most boring video game ever made. And the more they receive in charity donations for Child's Play, which is gives money to children's hospitals, the longer they play. It's essentially they take donations and suffer as a result. So if you've never heard of it, Google Desert Bus for Hope. Find it very easily. Give them a couple bucks. Super awesome. They sent me this pin because I donated way too much to them because they're great. So that's my final shout to all of you guys. Have a great weekend.
All right. You too, man.
Sam.
Thanks so much. Have a good night.
TNT's fan of the day is Benjamin Ang on Twitter, who says, back in the hotel after the cybersecurity meetings, found my Lenovo SG yoga projects bigger than the TV.
So this is how I watch TNT.
Yeah.
Nice.
We always like to see ourselves bigger than whatever else is in the room.
The bigger the better.
I mean, doesn't everyone? Show us how you watch or listen to TNT. Record your video. Take a picture of you, yourself, your setup. Post it on Instagram, Google+, Twitter, Facebook. We've got a lot of them. I haven't seen any mannequin challenges yet.
No, not yet.
So remember, we're still waiting for your How I Watch TNT mannequin challenge.
It's got to happen at least one time. Just send it, tag it, How I Watch TNT, and we'll find it. Up next, DeepMind really loves its video games. But first, let's take a minute to thank Epson. They are the sponsor of this episode. Epson's revolutionary cartridge-free EcoTank line of printers for home and office introduce a new age in printing. It's the EcoTank ET4550 wireless all-in-one printer. It doesn't use ink cartridges. So no more of those cartridges getting lost throughout your house. When you really need them, you can't find them. That's always been my experience. Instead, here it features an amazing, innovative, refillable ink tank that's earning it the title of CES 2016 Innovation Awards honoree. So you're not going to be frustrated anymore. You can't find the ink. You're out of ink and you really need it, but you don't know where to go. Here, it includes up to 2 years of ink, equal up to 11,000 black pages, or 8,500 color pages. You can save up to 80% on ink with low-cost replacement bottles. So you just fill those tanks as it's needed. It's powered by Precision Core printing technology. It has auto two-sided printing, a 30-page auto document feeder, and easy wireless printing from tablets and smartphones. It's not always easily done. Here, it's not a problem. All EcoTank printers deliver an unbeatable combination of convenience and value. With Epson's EcoTank line of printers, you'll have the freedom to print without running out of ink. The Epson EcoTank system was named the 2016 Small Biz Windows Printer of the Year. Visit epson.com/EcoTank today to transform the way your home, your office, or work group prints. For the best combination of ease and value, turn to the Epson EcoTank printers. That's epson.com/EcoTank. And we thank Epson for their support. Epson, exceed your vision.
Devinja Hardawar from Engadget says that Google's DeepMind is getting smarter thanks to a few new tricks, including reinforcement learning. To put it simply, they taught the AI reward prediction, or how to predict the onset of immediate reward given some historical context. DeepMind calls this Unreal, which stands for Unsupervised Reinforcement and Auxiliary Learning. It sounds to me, when I read this, it's a little like multitasking, which we know that the human brain is not very good at, but apparently DeepMind can talk on the phone with its mom and check Twitter at the same time a lot better than we can.
Mom, whatever, I'm just playing a game.
So they tested this, as they always do, testing AI against games, against a suite of 57 Atari games, as well as a 3D environment called Labyrinth, and that had 13 levels. It's really interesting to watch these videos, but I do feel like self-teaching is always a little scary for AI.
Yeah, in the Labyrinth, the reward are the apples as you travel along, and I guess they were saying it kind of reminds me of like old school like Doom or whatever. I guess do you remember the old PCs used to ship with a game just like that, like in the box? That was I don't know, in the 90s at some point. Anyways, throughout are those apples that it finds. That's the actual reward. And I feel like it really seems like they're kind of working up to this point to where, like, you could imagine putting DeepMind to work on Watch Dogs 2, and like that would be an entirely different scenario in the sense that there are rewards literally everywhere, every single place you turn. So this is kind of like prepping along the way, getting ready for that onslaught. It just seems to me like DeepMind is a gamer. At heart, it's a gamer. Really just likes gaming.
Well, yeah. A lot of the articles I read said that it's teaching AI how to dream, which I think is a bit of a stretch. That's putting a little bit more.
Yeah, I couldn't understand that.
Well, there was one line in the white paper where it talks about how this simulates animal dreaming, which I think that's where the historical context, like if you ever think about like an animal, like, that's like if you ever watch your dog sleep and it looks like it's, chasing rabbits or something, like I think that's it. It's like always trying to get that reward that it remembers in some other context. But yeah, AI always getting smarter.
Yeah, DeepMind, you should really get outside sometime. You're spending a lot of time playing games. It's time to get out in the real world.
Oh, let's keep it playing games, I think.
Actually, that might be the smartest way to go. TNT records live every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, 11 p.m. UTC at twit.tv/live. You can be part of the show by emailing us, tnt@twit.tv. You can leave us a short voicemail, 260-TNT-SHOW. You can find us on Twitter. We're at Tech News Today TV.
Your time is ticking away slowly. The time to wish your friends a Merry Twitmas is coming soon. The end is coming soon, November 23rd. But you can go now to order at teespring.com/Twitmas. It's our very own exclusive design. Put it on a sweatshirt, put it on a tank top, put it on a t-shirt, and find all the ways at teespring.com. And if you want to subscribe to our show, I think you want to, you can find all the ways to do that at twit.tv/TNT. And if you want to know what games my AI likes to play, I'm at Megan Maroney.
And I'm at Jason Howell. Thanks to our technical director, Kara, for pushing buttons behind the board. Thanks to Mario for scrolling words on the screen. Thanks to Kevin for editing. And everyone here that's always helping out. We really appreciate it. And thanks to you for talking tech with us today. We'll see you all on Monday. Have a great weekend. Bye. Bye.